Hey everybody, what is going on? I hope you guys are all well. I've got an amazing author that I want to introduce you to. Her name is Chante Carmel. She wrote a book called "The Shit I Learned on Tour." Now, the I is upside down. All right, when you go purchase this on Amazon, but this live is dedicated and for all the people who work in the entertainment industry. Being here in Los Angeles, it everybody comes here to either work in movies, they work in plays, they also perform on tour with artists. And this book right here is going to tell you how to survive the madness of LA, save your money, and basically navigate a lot of stuff that you may not know you have to deal with when you get into the entertainment industry. So whether you're just starting out or you've been in the entertainment industry for a number of years, this is a book that you need to get. It's called Shit I Learned on Tour, an artist's guide to thriving and surviving tour life, not just for Broadway professionals or people that are working on sitcoms or Netflix, but also artists who are traveling all over the world. I got to bring in the artist. Her name is Chante Carmel. She's first of all, I want to thank her for her time. She's all the way coming from Bahrain, of all places, and she um, decided to give me just a little bit of her time. So thank you so much for hanging with me. I appreciate it. How's everything on the other side of the world?
Hey, it's lovely over here. It's nice. Waiting for the weather to get a little bit warmer, but it's nice. It's nice. I'm enjoying
So
it.
Shante, you've been in a lot of things. I mean, we've been on Broadway for a minute. We started in The Lion King, Motown the Musical. You were in Dirty Dancing. I think I'm missing a couple of other plays in there.
Waitress. I was in
Waitress.
this play called Waitress, and also Rent.
You
That
were
was
in Rent.
actually my Yeah. I was in Rent for like 2 years. I'm not on Broadway. I toured. I toured with them. hmm
How
Yeah.
is it being in these big name plays? I mean, this has got to be the pinnacle of your career. You start off a lot of people when they start to get into the entertainment industry, whether it be on Broadway or be trying to get a TV sitcom, or as an artist trying to tour. It must feel delighted to kind of make it to the pinnacle of the top of the mountain heap because you got to beat out so many other people. So how did it feel when you first made it to Rent, to Broadway, to
Oh
Lion
man,
Motown?
it was overwhelming. It was overwhelming. It was hard. It's really hard work, and it's hard work that I felt like, when you're young and you just want it, nobody really talks to you about how difficult it is once you're in there. The level you have to perform at, 8 shows a week, every night, weekends, holidays, sometimes 10 show weeks. They never really talk about how difficult it is to maintain that, or just to be in that arena. You see the bright lights, you see the camera, you see the action, you see all the wonderful things, the red carpets and all of that. But like the work that people are putting into even getting there, and then the work for people to even stay there is like, it's really difficult. It's hard.
What was the biggest like, oh shit, I'm here moment
Oh
for
shit, I'm
you?
here. I'll tell you, one
I
was
gotta
an
perform
audition. Yeah, yeah. One was an audition moment, and then one was a performance moment. So the audition moment was walking into Barry Gordy's house in Bel Air and doing my final audition for Motown the Musical for him in his living room. Him, an accompanist, his assistant, and that was it. And him looking at me and going, "Okay, you
now.
won."
Okay,
He says, "Okay,
okay,
you won."
okay, you won. I mean,
I won.
I worked for Stevie Wonder for a decade, and then you get to know that these stars are regular people. But I couldn't imagine like off the fly going to Barry Gordy's house, performing in his living room, and then him saying, "Okay," like how do you manage the nerves of a big audition um that could change your life?
I I don't know. I don't know. I think I might have a lot of anxiety from like holding on to all the emotion in those moments that have been definitive for me, that have changed my life. I have a lot of like, I can't believe that happened.
Right.
I remember just like walking out of the house and jumping into my car and just having that moment where it was like, I don't even care if I get this or not. I was just in Barry Gordy's house
Right.
and
Yeah.
he told me I won. So if somebody else comes back around and says, no, she didn't win, I don't care. Barry Gordy told me I won. But then
it's surreal when you get to the top of the mountain and you're like, I can't believe I made it. Like I just won in Barry Gordy's house.
But it's never how it seems though. It's never how it seems behind the scenes. It actually is really a lot of hard work, especially doing Broadway stuff. You come in, you are surrounded by the dopest talent. I mean, like such good, talented, not good talent, amazingly talented people. I'm talking Alvin Ailey dancers. I'm talking Dance Theater Harlem dancers, people who have gone, masters in vocal performance, just brilliantly talented kids. And you're right there with them. And then you know what happens? A little bit of imposter syndrome starts to come up.
That's what I'm asking. Is it intimidating?
You're like, how did I pull this off? How am I here standing on stage with this person at the same time? Is
it intimidating to, because a lot of people, and I talk about this on the radio a lot of people get stuck in the journey and then like they may never make it to where they're going. But then God plucks you in places. Okay, you wanted it. Now here you go. Was it intimidating when you got to Broadway and you got to New York and you're on the stage performing in front of these audiences? Or did you snap yourself out of that real quick?
I was up. If I'm in full transparency, I was a mess. I was so nervous every night. I would go onto the stage. I was Martha Reeves, and I had the big production number in the show. Mm-hmm. Full, 25 dancers kicking their legs and doing toe touches behind me. And I'm the person singing the lead of the number. So it's like, there's an expectation. There's an expectation of greatness. The girl who I came after, so I did it the second time Motown came to Broadway. But the original girl who did it, Saquon, who is the mother on the Wonder Years now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, right. Wow. She was the original. And so I was like, oh my God, you're just coming behind all of these amazing, talented people. And you're just like, what am I doing this? Is this happening? But then it just, you're nervous.
So I know a lot of people are going to ask me what, and you don't have to give a specific number, but what was the money like when you get to Broadway? And it's New York, I know, but was it what you expected?
So, New York taxes are going to kill you every time. If we're just being honest, I think New York taxes are twice, like New York City tax and the state.
It's weird.
It's not like you just get the state tax and federal. You have to pay a city tax and then a state tax. And I think that's the way it works. Don't quote me on that.
And then the federal tax on top of this. So you got federal, state, and then the city tax, which is driving a lot of people out of New York right now.
I will tell you the living in New York is also not, you're just like, what?
What do you mean? Is it not fun?
Small apartments. And if you do have a larger apartment, like when I worked on Broadway, I had a bigger apartment, but it was so far away. I was on the train for 45 minutes to and from, I was still in the island of Manhattan, but I was in Inwood, way at the top of the island, because that was what was affordable. You don't want to blow. The money is good on Broadway, but some people are still, just because of the cost of living in New York, you could still potentially be living paycheck to paycheck.
Yikes.
Mm-hmm.
That's horrible.
If you're not super savvy, the rent and trying to get to Midtown to work 6 days a week.
Oh, you got to hit the subway. That's kind of an unintended cost, food costs, and all this other stuff. Mm-hmm. So you wrote this book, which is called "Shit I Learned on Tour: An Artist's Guide to Thriving and Surviving Tour Life." Yeah. Is this kind of like, for you, this is everything you wish somebody would have told you before you got on tour?
100%. It's like,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
If someone would have told me, maybe don't date your coworker.
I think that's just like general. I think it's general knowledge. Don't do that.
You're like, is this going to be right for me? If somebody would have told me what to do with my money when I really started making it, especially, so I've been on Broadway with Motown, but most of the other shows I did, I toured. So we're making so I'm faring out a lot better. You know, you fall into a different tax bracket once you come out of New York City and you're on the road and you're touring, because we make a per diem. So we make a per diem and we also make our salary. The per diem is roughly about $1,000 a week to live off of, and that covers your hotel and food.
Right.
And then you get your salary on top of that. So you're making it's a lot better earnings on the road, I think. Yeah.
So what's like the first main thing somebody who reads this book they should kind of really soak in? Because we are talking about finances. Like, how does one, let's say you're on the road touring as an artist, or in a play, or with a musicianal artist. What's the one main thing that you can offer them or tell them that they should be doing with their money, or how to save it?
I would say managing and having a plan. So most people go into a new job and they don't have their funds allocated to anything. They haven't really sat back and gone, okay, I'm starting this new job. I'm making this amount of money. This is how much food I want to spend on food every week. This is how much I want to spend on going out. I have to get my nails done. I have to get, how much is my outtake every month? How much am I putting out? And just having that conversation. So when you go into making 12 grand a month or so, give or take, depending on taxes, you're really able to go, okay, if I'm making this much, my monthly bills are this much. Now, how do what can I save? How am I what amount of money am I reinvesting into myself in my own career? What amount of money do I have to play with? What bills am I paying off? How am I getting myself out of debt? Do I have student loans? Can I start doubling up on those? Nice. So by the time that I'm off of this tour, I come out better. My credit, pull up that credit score. A lot of artists, for some reason, are letting their finances and their credit scores and things like that go unchecked.
Right.
We're artists, we're creative, we're all these things, but you look up at 15 years later and you haven't poured extra money into your 401k. You haven't set aside any type of savings plan for anything. You've just been living your life and being free. And now you're 40 and you're looking at retiring and you're like, am I even going to be able to do this?
Did you see a lot of people like want to go buy the bar out and go out to the strip clubs and go clubbing? I mean, was everybody focused when that you were on tour with?
I think Broadway people might be a little bit different than we're a little bit. I mean, we didn't buy the bar out. We weren't making that kind of money.
Okay.
Not making buy the bar out money. But I did see listen, it's fun. You're out, you're in new cities, you're traveling, you're from Texas, now you're in Chicago, you're from a little small town in Louisiana, now you're all the way in Miami for the first time ever in your life. You want to live it up. And you should. Just have to have a plan for it. You plan for it. You figure out how in these 3 cities that are smaller towns, I'm going to have a roommate. I'm going to save 3/4 of my per diem. I'm going to, only eat out 3 times. I'm going to try to make sure all my meals are this. And then by the time you get to that big city where it really means a lot, now you can live it up.
You told me about not only you but also some of your coworkers were managed. You guys managed to, I guess, bank a lot of your money to where you were able to buy property. Like one of your partners on tour actually bought 7 houses over the time. And that's really a lot of focus right there to sit there and say, you know what, I'm gonna treat this whole job strategically. I'm gonna go put my money and make sure it's out there working for me.
Listen. The guy who bought 7 houses, there were times where I would look over at him like I didn't know he was buying 7 houses when they were buying them, when he was doing it. He didn't tell anybody. He didn't tell anybody he was writing a book. He didn't tell anybody what. He kind of just moved inside. But I looked over at him one time and I feel like I saw a hole in his sock.
You saw what?
A hole in his sock. And he was like, yeah, I don't care.
I may have a hole in my sock, but I got 7 apartments to put that hole in. And,
he was focused. He was focused, he was quiet, he had a plan, he knew what he wanted to get out of that tour. And I think I'm pretty sure he's a millionaire a couple of times over now, just based on his assets.
Let's talk about negotiating your pay. I mean, is that something that your agent's going to do, or is that something that you can do, or can you negotiate for extra things like, hey, you know what, if I'm going to be going on tour, can you pay for a car, or can I get first class, or
Yeah.
can I
Yeah.
even negotiate for extra money for my salary? Like, is that something you have to do, or is that something your agent has to do?
I mean, both. You know, if you have that relationship with your agency, and you're like, look, these are the things that I'll do if I decide to do this. These are the things that I need, and it really depends on who you are and how valuable you are to that company.
Right.
So I was actually just in, yeah. Everything can be negotiated, but I was just in A Christmas Carol over the holidays with Bradley Whitford and I'm gonna brain fart on Alex Newell and Kate Burton. So 3 mega stars.
Right.
You know, they are mega, all 3 of them. And there was definitely moments where we were like, why didn't we negotiate this? You can see them and you're like, oh, the company paid for it. They're taking care of everything. I was like, oh, the company does that? Like, it just depends on who your agent is, who you are, what your star meter is, what your star power is. And yes, at one point I was like, oh, some things can't be negotiated, but everything can be negotiated.
How do you know if your star meter is up there? I mean, you know, when you're out there doing the work, you really don't know what's really going on because you're focusing on lines, learning the routines, and performing. But how do you know, like, yo, I can sit there and ask for more money, or I can sit there and ask for a little extra comforts of life, or, you know, have them put me up in a hotel, or pay for my apartment? Like, how do you figure that out? Or
you just know. You do just know. I mean, you know what your value is. So when I came off of Broadway, I went right into Dirty Dancing, and they wanted me to go on the tour, and I was just like, I don't know if I want to go back out on tour. It seems like it's going to be really difficult. And, you know, I was just like, well, I'll do it if I have these things, because I felt like there were certain things that made me feel more like a person on tour, like having my own vehicle to myself. There are certain rules that when you're in the union that the company has to abide by. Like, if you live a certain amount of distance from the venue, if they put you in a hotel that is over a half a mile from the venue, they have to provide you with rental cars, but not your own rental car.
Oh, okay.
You shared rental cars with 3 other people in the cast.
Oh no! So you kind of them of like, how does that even work though? Like,
so now you're trying to figure out, you know, you have a car, but you kind of don't have a car, right?
You got to figure out. Because you got to share it with 2 other people, and depending on what they're doing.
Right.
Did everybody get along while you were on tour? I mean, I'd like to talk about personalities. This is the entertainment industry, and there are 2 types of people who get into this industry. Those who really love the art form of acting, singing, performing. There's something beautiful about that craft. And then there are those who just want to be famous. And usually I found that those who want to be famous are usually the jackasses, the egomaniacs. I was wondering, can you talk about the type of people that you ran into while you were on tour? And that you worked with? Was it all love and we're part of this cast, we're making history, we're on Broadway, or it was kind of like Chatty Cathy and backstabbing and
I'll tell you the type of people that I ran into, talented ones. And whenever you have talented people who have spent their whole lives dedicated to their craft, they've danced since they were 5, they have bled for it, they have sweat for it. That comes with a certain ego. You know, anybody who has put the years in, put in those 10,000 hours, it comes with something, because it takes a certain type of person to even do this job.
Right.
Because there's so much rejection. So you have to have kind of like a thicker skin, at least to other people. It has to seem.
Is it confidence or is it arrogance?
Is what?
Is it confidence or is it arrogance?
A little bit of both. The arrogance is the mask that you have to put on to make it. To say, I don't care. It's fine. I'll book the next one. It's fine. I know I'm dope. You know, that's the mask you have to kind of wear to continue to let other people tell you whether you're good or not.
How do you deal with rejection? And this is one of the things that I don't like about the entertainment industry. There are only so many jobs, but there are way too many performers out there, whether it is in a Broadway play, a TV show, or you performing with an
I'm getting
artist.
a little, I'm getting a little distortion.
Can you hear me okay?
It's a
Can you hear me okay?
distortion. It's a
Is it?
little distorted. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay, so as long as it doesn't sound weird on your end. It
No,
sounds
no,
weird.
you're
Okay.
fine. You're fine. No,
Oh,
what I'm asking is that how do you deal with with rejection? You know, one of the things with the entertainment industry is that there is a lot of rejection. There are not enough jobs for the amount of actors that are out there trying to perform, or singers when it comes to backup. How do you not get discouraged and still keep going out there trying to perform? And you know that you're good. I mean, you've been doing this for God knows how long. You know,
right.
but there's just so many different factors that go into play from being chosen. A lot of times, talent is not just enough.
Hmm.
Sometimes it's maybe who you're sleeping with, or maybe who you know, or maybe you're just the right person for the right or wrong person for the part. How do you push past that and get past that?
Yeah, I think what's dope about what's happening with technology now is you can create your own thing. There's so many ways to create your own outlet, so many ways to show the world that you're dope without waiting for somebody else to say, here, let me put you on a platform and I'll show the world that you're dope. Like, so creatively right now, creators and really dope, talented people that feel like they're being overlooked are just creating their own, which I think is really commendable, really dope. Or it happens. You decide whether it's for you or not, and you have to make that decision. You have to decide whether this career that will chew you up and spit you out is
Yeah,
for you.
we are
And that's a decision I feel like I have to make every day.
talking. We're talking with Chante Carmel. She has a book out. It is the Shit I Learned on Tour right now. It is on Amazon. There's a link in the description that if you're watching this on Facebook, Twitter, at Twitch, Instagram, or YouTube, that'll take you right to Amazon where you can purchase the book. You talk about depression, anxiety, um, alcohol. Is that a real big thing when it comes to this entertainment industry? A lot of
Absolutely.
people, is it like a lot of people self-medicating?
100%. Um, and listen, nothing against anybody who drinks, who smokes, who does drugs, or anything like that. If the shit's pressure, it's pressure. And sometimes you need to escape from that. Sometimes you need just to be out of your own way, out of your own head, and just have that moment where nothing matters. And I get it. And I've been there, and I've been on tour and felt the lowest I've ever felt in my whole life, but had to go out on that stage and pretend like I'm not feeling the lowest that I felt and
But
bring joy to other people. And that in itself is a
but
mind game.
you're at the high point of your career. I would think that every day you would wake up and be like, I can't believe that I'm on Broadway or I'm touring with this
Yeah.
company. Like it, if you're touring with Motown or The Lion King or Dirty Dancing, like it's not an aha moment of like I can't believe I'm here and I get to do this every single day. There's a level of depression and anxiety out there.
There is the obviously first couple of months, first 6 months, you're riding the wave, right? But imagine not sleeping in your bed for 6 months, Don. Imagine not seeing your mom for 6 months, not being able to go hang out with your friends who know you and accept you for who you are.
Mhm.
Not being able to go to your favorite bar, just a place where the music's going to be good, is going to be a vibe. You may see somebody like just not being home. And it's that life in itself, nobody prepares you for that side of touring, the loneliness that can come from it, and everybody doesn't find, some people find love on tour, or they find a person to hang out with. And and that works for them, and it works for a while. But what if you have somebody back at home that you're missing? that, can't necessarily time-wise or whatever afford to fly out to see you often. And that's been your person for years.
Right.
You've been with a person for 5 years, you booked this tour, and now all of a sudden you're gone. Like, how difficult are those things? Missing people, missing your loved ones, not showing up. I've had a couple of really close friends of mine die while I was out on tour. And because of the schedule, I couldn't make it back home to the funeral.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's a section in this book under entanglements. Is everybody doing everybody behind the scenes on these tours?
It's just, listen, office. Listen, you have to remember too. There are some beautiful people who do what I do, from head to toe.
Right.
They are outgoing. Their bodies are fit. They're at the top of their game as well in terms of talent, their knowledge, and you guys are out there in the trenches together. You're out there in the trenches, and that in itself forms these connections, these bonds. And then sometimes you may end up with people you weren't supposed to be. They call it tour goggles.
Tour goggles.
When you to the left, and the person who you thought you would never in a million years, about 6 months in, that person starts looking real good. Like, what, maybe.
Really?
With such and such, just because there's that need for companionship, and you want to find your person, somebody you can trust, and just be cool with it, just, be able to go grab a cup of coffee with it, just not have to be by yourself. So, yeah.
Another section in the book that you talk about is invest in yourself. And what do you mean by investing in yourself?
So, I mean, taking the downtime that you have on tour and starting your own podcast, if that's something that you're passionate about. Making sure that there was one girl on tour, her name is Lauren Lott. She was on my Motown tour. She's super famous now, by the way. But she's been making videos for Instagram and coming up with her own content for years.
Wow.
When she got to the tour, we would kind of make fun of her because she was always in her phone. Like, I would always give her such a hard time about it. But when I tell you, this girl knew camera angles, she knew how to take a picture, she knew how to frame herself correctly. She was making videos, always making a funny skit, always putting it out there, checking on her followers. She was while she was working, she was investing in her own brand.
Right.
And it has 100% paid off for her.
Yeah, I think that's something that a lot of people have to do. I always tell people I was born in the wrong generation, because when I was coming up, there was no TikTok, there was no Instagram, there was no nothing. About hell, we barely had cell phones.
Right.
Everybody had a pager, and so a lot of these younger kids who grow up with immersed into this lifestyle, it just comes so easy for them to sit there and do these skits and express themselves creatively, and that's pretty dope. Yeah. That's really dope. So she's blowing up off of sitting there and doing her own thing and making her own thing.
Yeah, because she was really smart about it. She took the downtime that we had while we were on tour, and she just took that time while she was making really good money, traveling around the country, and just invested it back into herself. She was really smart that way.
Do you suggest like people learn like while they're out touring to start doing something like that? I mean, because 10 years ago, I went to a class about hosting by a very famous lady named Marky Costello here in Los Angeles. And she was ahead of the curve when she said, listen, everybody has to develop their own brand. You got to figure out what your brand is, because that's what everybody's starting to look for. So do you suggest people who are getting into this business to start developing their own brand while on someone else's dime, basically, while you're working, while you're touring? Figure that out, learn what it is, take some classes, and just try to build yourself up so that whenever this stops, whether it's a tour with an artist or a Broadway musical, you are positioned to kind of propel yourself, maybe with a following that you built while you're on tour.
Yeah. So listen, the thing about touring, I have a section in the book. It's called No Tonys on Tour.
No Tonys on tour.
No Tonys on tour, because nobody's getting a Tony when you're on tour. And it's such a harsh chapter, because you would like to think, oh, Chante, if I get into this show, I got to put my best foot forward. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying don't put your best foot forward in everything. But when you're maybe an original cast of a show, you got so much more invested, because you're actually you're creating.
Right.
You're getting to record that soundtrack. You're gearing up for the Tonys. Every performance, every night, every critic, so many different things, you have to be thinking about. But once a tour has started, the hard work, I'm not gonna say the hard work has already been done, but just like that's not what you're working towards anymore. All the Tonys have been all the Tonys have been won for Lion King. Like I'm not on that night I'm not on the stage every night in Lion King like gotta get this Tony. I'm working at that point. That's my 9 to 5.
Well, how do I get the Tony though? I mean, how do you get the Tony if they gave them all out already? I mean, they don't got no new Tonys, like that was last year's Tony. This the new one.
You got to get in the show. You have to start. You have to make sure you're branding yourself. Make sure your auditions are tight. Make sure your IMDb is up. Making sure whatever you're selling, people are buying. And your agent, you have a great relationship with your agent. You're getting the auditions in for those shows that are still on their way to Broadway. So you become an original cast. So you have to have your ear to the ground, and that's another way of, once again, investing in yourself, making sure that you know what's happening, for what your ultimate goal is, which is that Tony. If your ultimate goal is that Tony, then your work, your outside work should be geared towards that lane.
One of the things that I don't think a lot of people necessarily focus on that much is the toll that performing takes on your body. I mean, we just talked about the mental toll, but physically dancing, moving in a choreographed routine on stage. How has that toll been on your body or other people's bodies? I mean, is it nothing, or is this something that you got to stay in the gym and constantly stay working out, stretching out, and your body? Because I don't think a lot of people really think about what it's like to be on stage performing 1 or 2 shows a night for 5 or 6 days a week. Like, that's a lot of work.
Yeah. My life on tour pretty much consisted of gym and work. Like I had to do a certain amount of work in the gym every day to stay fit to do the show at night. On Lion King, for example, I understudied Nala and Shinzi, which are both really physically demanding roles. I went into Lion King probably being able to run about 10, 11 miles. I felt like I was the most fit I had ever been, top of my game. And then the plyometric training that I did for Nala, which is a lot of jumping and stuff like that, I actually developed tendonitis in both of my knees.
Oh no.
And
is there a fund that like takes care of you when you get older, or it's just like, hey, that's it, that's what we paid you for?
No, we have a 401. We have 401ks.
Okay.
That we pay into, and also we have what do you call it?
Medical, Cobra.
No, we have full coverage medical insurance. Okay. Our medical insurance is great when we qualify for it. Yeah, because you have to work a certain amount of weeks to qualify for our medical coverage. You have to work like 11, I think it's 11, 14 and something like that amount. And then that now it's a tier system. It's in the book. It's a tier system, and that now will tell what kind of medical coverage you
so they're taking care of you. But do you worry about any after effects as far as after you're done touring that you may have to deal with?
Yeah, I know a girl. She's featured in the book. Her name is Erin. At one point, she was actually performing with 2 torn hips.
She was performing what?
Hip torn. She had 2 tears in her hips.
You can do that?
She was performing. Yeah, she was performing every night. And then after, when COVID hit, she ended up going and getting one replaced. But I talked to her about it now, and she's like, I don't think I'll ever be the same. And she was a dancer. She is a dancer.
Yikes. Yeah. We're talking with Chante Carmel. The book is Shit I Learned on Tour. It is on Amazon right now. I want you to go get this if you are thinking about getting into the industry, if you're already in the industry, from finances to your mental health, to contract negotiations, to what it's like to be on tour life, to entanglements, which Jada made that very popular. How do you know when it's time to kind of step away from this? Because what I'm hearing for you talk about is that there's a mental toll, there's a physical toll, there's a financial toll, there's a family toll. I mean,
Hmm.
is this a job that you can do until you're, I don't know, 90 years old? Or I mean, I'm exaggerating, but I mean, or is there a kind of like a shelf life that you have to kind of gotta.
I've seen people of all ages tour, of all ages, old, young, middle aged, families. Some people bring their families with them on tour.
Hmm.
Their kids. I know a group of kids that have never been to regular school. They've toured their whole life. They've only been homeschooled their whole life, and that's been their life since, they were born on tour. So it really just depends on who you are, what your situation is, and how you're navigating it all.
Okay.
Some people couldn't be happier, and some people are like, this really isn't for me. This
I
really,
know
and that's a personal decision.
COVID kind of shut everything down in New York City, and that may have given you a break to kind of take a breather and kind of recuperate. Are you going to go back to Broadway? Are you going to go back to touring on the road? Or
That's
are we focusing on something else in the future? Like what are we going to be doing as far as, am I going to see you in the new Spider-Man the musical that's going to be on Broadway, or whatever, or are you
I don't
evolving
know.
your career?
I don't know. I really don't know. I already went back to touring. If I'm keeping it 100, back in October, the Christmas Carol was a short tour. It was 3 months. So I've already went back to touring. I've already done it. So it's it's the I don't know if I want to say monkey on my. It just keeps calling me back. It's like
Well,
my
listen.
it's like the
I work
money,
on
and I'm like, oh, you're right, the money. How do I say no?
that's how I think that's how it is with anything you've been doing for a very long time. With the radio industry, a lot of people want to get out of it, and I've been working on the radio for over 20 something years, but then there's like always this itch. There's always the creature comforts that come with the job,
Yeah.
the people you're just so influenced by, but I think it's always a good time to always a good it's always a time just to kind of take a step back and just kind of rest, catch your breath for a moment, you know what I'm saying, and reevaluate what you're going to do. And
Yeah, COVID was the gift that kept giving in so many ways for me. It was the break that I needed. I know it was a terrible time for everybody in the whole wide world, but for a lot of people like me who hadn't sat down in years, I was out on the road when COVID hit, and I got in my car and I drove home to the house that I had purchased months before and had only spent one night in.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's horrible. Like you purchased a home and then you just left and went back on tour.
I bought a home in December, came home. I didn't even come home to sign the papers. I had actually given my mother power of attorney to sign for me. My best friend, who was also my realtor, he took him and his wife went to the house to do the look around, the fight. They had me like on video or whatever. And then I bought the house. I bought the
Really?
house. Yeah. I didn't even come home and do my last looks.
Wow.
Uh-huh. And by that March, that's when COVID hit. So I bought in December, and then March COVID hit. And I came home and I was like, wow, I have a house. Wow, this house is really nice.
Yeah, but I mean, listen, you worked very hard for it. I mean, you put the number of years on tour for it. You know what? You might as well bask in it for a second, and call it a day. All right. So the book is the Shit I Learned on Tour. It's on Amazon. The link is in the description. I don't want to hold you up because I know you're on the other side of the world and it's early.
No, you're fine.
I just want to ask one last thing. What's the best piece of advice you put in here from what you learned while you were out in this industry?
Protect your mental health.
Yeah, I get that.
Protect your mental health while you're out there. Stay sharp, stay alert. Everybody is not your friend. These are your coworkers.
Ain't that the truth, right?
Yeah, it's a dog eat dog world, and there are a lot of things that I put in. There's a list of unspoken theater etiquette in that book,
Okay.
Which I think is probably one of the best things that I talk about, because there are things that you go into and you don't even know it's a rule, and no one is telling you, but they will talk the most crap about you if you didn't know.
Yeah, what is that? Why not? I guess they expect you're supposed to know.
They expect you to know. They expect you to know. And it's like, how would I know? How would I know that if I've never done this job before? So, yeah. It's
Okay.
protect your mental health, because I've seen a lot of people, you know, just break, me included. I'm
Yeah.
not, this book, listen, the book is shit I learned on tour. This is stuff that I learned about myself.
Right. Okay.
These are the lessons that I learned. I feel I made every mistake you can make on tour. Every mistake you can make, I made. From not showing up, from being late. I made every mistake you can make. And for some reason, I mean, I got to keep doing it again. And then I try to get it right the next time. And then I learn another lesson and I try to get it right the next time. But there were so many things that the reason why I even wrote the book, Don, is because it's like, why did I have to learn this the hard way?
Yeah.
Why wasn't there somebody who could tell me, yo, buy this, get this credit card, put all of your hotel fees on this one credit card. By the end of a year, you'll have so many points, all your vacations will be free.
Paper. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's and that you know what, and that's stuff that I don't think that you kind of just learn along the way. Is that how do I
Mm-hmm.
sit there and use my money so that I'm not just facilitating my life, but it's working for me in a
Yeah,
way that um, most people don't have it work for them.
yeah.
All right, so the book "Shit I Learned on Tour" it is on Amazon right now. You can basically just go to the website and get it. 16.99 on the paperback. Are we going to put a hardcover out at all, or what? Or are we just
Are
going
we
to do
gonna do what?
paperback? Are we going to put a hardcover out, or is it
Yeah.
just paper
No,
right now?
because I want people to be able to roll it up, put it in their suitcase, take it with them. There's sections where you can make notes. There's sections where you can write out your own personal finances. I go line by line. Do you pay for this? Do you pay for Hulu, Netflix? What are your finances?
Gotcha.
There are moments where you can reflect in the book and say, okay, this is where I want to be. What are my goals? Small, short-term goals, long-term goals. Some tours are shorter than others. Some tours are longer. So you can do monthly goals where you plan month by month. Okay, by the end of this month, I want this. By the end of this month, I want to have accomplished this. By the end of this month, I want to have my website up. Some people are better making those short-term goals than the longer-term ones. I'm a short-termer. I'm like, let me do this 30-day challenge, 30-day whatever. So however you make that work for you, there's sections in the book where you can really get into that and really hold yourself accountable.
Yeah.
For what you're doing on tour, what you're doing with your money, what you're doing with your life, what you're doing with your career,
Right.
and
No,
how you're driving your career forward.
yeah, that's it's always beautiful when we have people veterans who've been in the game for a little bit kick down knowledge down to the people who are just coming in, or just to the people who may not even know. And that's one of the things I really appreciate about this book is that there's just a wealth of knowledge, and it is the shit that you learn on tour. Apply it to
Yeah.
your life, see what works for you. It may or may not work for you, but at least you got a guidebook and a foundation to grow off of and help. The book on Amazon right now. I can't wait to see what you have in store in the future because I know it's going to be great. Thank you so much for spending some time. Where can they follow you if they want to follow you online? I know you're on Instagram. I know you're on Twitter. Can they go to your website?
Chante Carmel website, but if you follow me on Instagram, I am Chante Carmel. That should do it. That's probably the best place to catch me.
Okay.
And the link for the book is also there as well.
All
You
right.
can click the link in my bio directly for the book. So I think, Don, thank you so much for doing this. Thank you so much for having me. I am forever in your debt and extremely appreciative for this time.
Come on now, listen. My whole thing with my whole life is to highlight voices, talented people, and to uplift our black brothers and sisters, and not just black brothers and sisters, but I always try to make it. And you got a book that has a lot of valuable resources in it, and the least I could do is sit there and kind of spread the gospel of Chante Carmel, and let you know this is the shit she learned on tour and apply it to your life. So thank you so much for hanging out with me. I appreciate it. Be safe all the way across the world out there. And thank you. And listen, you guys go out and get this book. It is The Shit I Learned on Tour. There's a link in the description. Support this woman as she is supporting you with a wealth of knowledge of information. And if you can do me a favor, share this broadcast so that you may have a cousin, brother, sister, uncle, or anybody that may be going into the entertainment industry. They could definitely use this information as a guidebook to help them navigate this crazy entertainment world, which I've been a part of for over 25 years. And trust me, it's wild. It's full of weird people. It's full of a lot of money. It's full of a lot of fame. And I wish somebody would have given me kind of like a playbook to say, hey, do X, Y, and Z. Thank you guys, as always, for following me and listening to me on the radio. Make sure you download the KBLA app. Listen all throughout the month of February. It's Black History Month. We're giving away a bunch of stuff on KBLA. Go to the Google Play Store, Apple App Store, download the app, and then we're asking for your favorite historical Black figurist. If you do that, we're going to hook you up with a swag bag. Just listen every single day. They're going to be announcing a winner every single day all throughout the month of February. And if you've done it already, thank you so much for supporting Tavis Smiley and KBLA in Los Angeles. Until Monday, you guys be safe, and I'll holler at you later.